3 a.m., Los Angeles. Over 1,000 federal officers are moments away from deployment. This is the night the Rancho San Pedro gang's criminal empire collapsed. 80 taken into custody, 230 facing federal charges, 3 years of covert operations, the biggest gang enforcement action Los Angeles has ever witnessed. This is the story of how it happened. San Pedro, California. The entrance to Los Angeles Harbor, among the world's most active shipping terminals, cargo vessels, storage facilities, and for decades, something darker. The Rancho San Pedro Gang, RSP, a street organization that transformed into something far more threatening than ordinary neighborhood crews. This went beyond territorial conflicts. This went beyond controlling street corners. Federal authorities uncovered that the RSP gang was operating a complex criminal operation, weapons smuggling, narcotics distribution, cartel connections, and violence that held an entire neighborhood hostage. But the organization made one fatal error. They drew federal attention. It begins with intelligence. A confidential source tips ICE Homeland Security Investigations about firearms flowing through the harbor district. Not standard handguns, military-grade weaponry, the type ending up in cartel arsenals south of the border. Special Agent Maria Santos, ICE Homeland Security Investigations, Los Angeles Field Office, years of experience tracking gang operations in the harbor zone. But this investigation stands apart. The weapons aren't staying in California. They're being transported, headed south into Mexico. And the funds flowing back? That's cartel money. The Rancho San Pedro gang isn't just a neighborhood threat anymore. They're integrated into a transnational smuggling operation. Agent Santos reaches out. This becomes a multi-agency case. The FBI's Violent Gang Task Force commits resources. Then ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, contributes firearms expertise. Local LAPD gang specialists supply ground-level intelligence. For 3 years, these departments collaborate towards a single objective: construct federal prosecutions powerful enough to eliminate the entire Rancho San Pedro structure. Not simply apprehend street operatives, destroy the complete network. The probe develops methodically. Observation teams monitor gang operatives. Undercover personnel penetrate the structure. Surveillance devices record discussions about narcotics transactions, firearms transfers, and coordinated attacks. Every communication, every gathering, every exchange. Everything gets documented. Federal prosecutors construct RICO indictments, racketeer-influenced and organizations charges, the identical statutes employed against organized crime families. But as investigators dig deeper, they uncover something worse. The gang isn't just moving firearms, they're distributing drugs throughout Southern California: methamphetamine, heroin, fentanyl, the substances claiming thousands of American lives annually. Federal prosecutors in the Central District of California start preparing indictments. But these aren't minor possession violations. They're targeting the entire infrastructure under federal conspiracy statutes. Conspiracy to distribute controlled narcotics, conspiracy to traffic weapons, violent offenses supporting racketeering activity. Several gang operatives face lifetime federal imprisonment. ATF specialists track firearms recovered in Mexico back to California purchasers. The documentation points directly to Rancho San Pedro gang operatives. They're using straw purchasers, individuals with clean backgrounds who lawfully acquire firearms, then unlawfully transfer them to gang associates. Throughout the probe, agents connect the gang to numerous firearms found at crime scenes, homicides, cartel confrontations, border events. Each weapon provides evidence. On the narcotics front, DEA analysts examine confiscated substances. The methamphetamine shows high-purity cartel manufacturing. The heroin contains fentanyl contamination. This isn't corner-level sales. This is large-scale distribution. Former gang associates turned cooperating witnesses deliver critical information. They outline the gang's command structure, who issues directives, how narcotics move, where weapons are concealed. Every piece of intelligence moves prosecutors toward their objective, a coordinated federal operation. By late 2019, federal prosecutors possessed sufficient evidence. Grand juries returned sealed charges against 230 gang operatives and affiliates. Some face federal prosecution, others state charges. But all of them are about to experience a devastating morning. Now arrives the challenging phase, apprehending them simultaneously. 3 a.m. Operation Day. Inside a secured command facility, law enforcement commanders from multiple departments finalize operational plans. This is Operation Harbor Storm. They've designated 80 priority targets for immediate apprehension: gang commanders, weapons suppliers, drug traffickers, all waking shortly to federal agents breaching their doors. 1,300 officers. Consider that figure. Federal personnel from ICE, FBI and ATF, LAPD gang divisions, LA Harbor Police, California Highway Patrol, U.S. Marshals, all converging on San Pedro. SWAT elements and tactical vehicles, specialized units with entry tools, canine teams, aviation support. The largest gang enforcement action in Los Angeles history. 5 a.m. Dawn approaches. Teams positioned, 80 locations, 80 arrest warrants, all executed at once. Doors explode across the harbor neighborhood, suspects apprehended in their homes. Some attempt escape, others immediately comply. Controlled mayhem on an unprecedented scale. Systematically, gang operatives are placed into custody, prone on the floor, wrists secured behind them, Miranda rights read out.
While arrests proceed, forensic teams examine properties. They're searching for firearms, narcotics, gang documentation, financial evidence, anything supporting the federal prosecutions. They discover an armory, pistols, military-style rifles, shotguns, extended-capacity magazines, sound suppressors, several weapons connected to murders, others intended for cartels. Narcotics throughout the locations, kilograms of methamphetamine prepared for distribution, heroin, cocaine, prescription medications, street value millions. Gang documentation books record the structure's hierarchy. Mobile devices contain communications about drug transactions. Financial documents reveal money laundering schemes. That afternoon, federal authorities conduct a media briefing. The statement is unambiguous. This demonstrates what occurs when federal departments unite to dismantle criminal structures. Today's operation represents 3 years of committed investigative effort by numerous law enforcement departments. The statistics speak volumes. 80 apprehended in 24 hours, 230 charged overall, the largest gang operation in LA history. Among those detained, the gang's leadership hierarchy, decision-makers who authorized violence, sources who furnished weapons, traffickers who distributed narcotics into neighborhoods. The allegations they confront are serious. Federal conspiracy violations carry mandatory minimum terms. Gun trafficking charges add additional years. Violent crimes supporting racketeering, that means life in federal custody. Over subsequent weeks, gang operatives appear in federal court. Some immediately accept guilt, seeking reduced sentences. Others claim innocence. But federal prosecutors possess 3 years of documentation, wiretaps, observation footage, cooperating witness statements, financial documentation, ballistics analysis connecting firearms to offenses. The prosecutions are comprehensive. In San Pedro, community members respond with careful hope. For years, they've endured gang violence, drive-by attacks, intimidation, fear. Community advocates hope this enforcement brings permanent change, but they understand the work continues. Eliminating gang operatives leaves a leadership void. Other organizations might attempt expansion. That's why federal and local departments sustain significant presence in the Harbor District after the operations. This isn't solely about arrests. It's about continuous enforcement, community engagement, ensuring the gang cannot reconstitute. Operation Harbor Storm represents more than one street gang. It's component of a broader approach to counter transnational criminal structures. Street gangs like Rancho San Pedro function as distribution channels for Mexican drug cartels. They transport narcotics from the border into American communities. They supply firearms that cartels employ for violence south of the border. The Port of Los Angeles represents a critical infrastructure asset. Billions in legitimate commerce flows through daily, but criminal structures attempt to exploit the identical infrastructure for contraband. That's why HSI focuses on port protection. They're not exclusively immigration enforcement. HSI personnel investigate transnational criminality, human smuggling, drug trafficking, weapons distribution, financial laundering. Operations like Harbor Storm showcase the effectiveness of multi-department collaboration. HSI contributes investigative capabilities and federal jurisdiction. FBI supplies violent gang knowledge. ATF manages firearms trafficking. Local departments supply neighborhood-level intelligence. When these departments coordinate, they construct prosecutions that state authorities cannot. Federal courts impose harsher penalties. Federal facilities are more restrictive. Federal charges mean gang operatives cannot simply return to their communities after brief periods. Today, San Pedro is recovering. Gang-related violence has declined. Community members feel safer, but the effort persists. Of the 230 individuals charged, many have received convictions. Sentences span from 5 years to life in federal custody. Gang leadership is removed. The structure's command hierarchy is demolished. Law enforcement represents only partial resolution. Community programs work to offer alternatives to gang involvement. Youth initiatives, employment training, educational opportunities, providing young people choices. Federal personnel continue monitoring the Harbor District. They understand that eliminating one gang doesn't solve the problem. Criminal structures evolve. New dangers surface. But Operation Harbor Storm demonstrated something significant. When law enforcement departments combine towards a shared goal, they can accomplish remarkable outcomes. 1,300 officers, 80 arrests in one day, 230 charged, and an entire neighborhood given opportunity to recover their streets. If you found this operation as compelling as I did, subscribe to this channel immediately. I document actual federal law enforcement operations, ICE operations, FBI investigations, DEA enforcement actions, ATF operations, the cases that don't receive mainstream coverage. Leave a comment. Do you believe federal departments should increase involvement in gang enforcement, or should it remain with local authorities? Let's discuss. And if you want to discover what happened when ICE conducted a human trafficking operation in Texas, that video is available here. Thanks for watching.